So this is my quick overview of the Phanteks 500A case. This is the new white case that came out several months ago, and this is just my user experience of this actual case. I think this is a great case if anybody's out in the market looking for this. Now, I first started looking at the NZXT 510 Elite, I think. I don't really know the name of SKU, but it's a very popular case that you see all over the internet. I really like the whole white on black. But one of the issues I had with the NZXT was the lack of airflow. I just came from a pre-built HP Omen PC, and I wanted to get something with a lot more airflow. This case came recommended by Gamers Nexus. I actually saw several case reviews of him, and I landed on this case, mainly on the aesthetics as well as the airflow. So opening up this case, there's some magnets that hold this up right here. And what I like about it is there's a hinge that comes right off. This is my very first complete PC build that I did from beginning to end. Now, there's already several reviews of this case online. This is more of a tips and tricks that I found specific to this case for anybody who's out there who just either already bought this case or who are interested in this case. So the first thing I want to point out, call your attention, is this vertical mount GPU unit. So you can see here, there's a riser cable back here that goes down to this mount. Now, this plastic mount that's right here, this came with the actual case itself. Now, if you actually read the user manual says that you should actually screw it into those two holes right there, but what I find is that it doesn't line up with the actual GPU. Even though the user manual says that you should screw it in, don't screw it in. This will not be screwed into this case. This mount, it will kind of slide around. So you take the two brackets out and you mount the GPU like you would normally horizontally, but you know, obviously with the little feet inside here, and then you secure it with these screws over here. It's nice and secure. I mean, I'm tugging it back and forth. It's very secure. Now, the reason why I believe Phanteks says that you should screw this in is that they expect you to use their riser cable. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying the Phanteks riser cable. If you want to go ahead and do that, by all means, do it. But in my case, I saved myself a couple dollars. This cable right here was probably about $18, $19 on Amazon. So that's one little trick if you're interested in a vertical mount GPU. I have a AIO cooler, and the actual AIO cooler I have is another one I found on Amazon. There's not too many reviews on this cooler. It's called ID Cooling. There's this 360 millimeter 3-fan AIO, and I wanted something that was within my budget that had RGB. This was around $100, so that was pretty affordable for me, and it came Amazon Prime, so I went ahead and bought it. I've been playing around where I want this tubing to go, but up here you can tell this is how a 360 will fit. So you can definitely fit a 360 millimeter radiator on the top, and it's secured with these screws up here. So it's nice and secured. It gets really good exhaust ventilation, and I just feel all around this is very solid and really nice. Going back specific to this case, look at my fans. These fans were originally mounted on the inside of the case, and I'll try to see if I can pull up a picture and show you how it originally looked like. When I was watching and also reading the Gamers Nexus review, one of the complaints was you can't mount these fans externally because they don't fit, and that's true. These fans do not fit externally. Using a Dremel and a little bit of ingenuity, I was able to actually get these externally mounted. My original intention was to start off getting a 3080. This is how I started with this whole build, is when an NVIDIA 3080 dropped, I wanted to build myself a new PC. Obviously, with stock issues, I was not able to get my hands on it. I was really eyeing the FE model 3080, and to this day, I was just unable to get my hands on it. So I started my PC build without my 3080, and I was using my previous GPU, which this right here is an RTX 2070 Super that I bought last year. In any case, going back to why I don't have this, AMD recently announced the Radeon 6800 XT, and an Asus, which is the manufacturer of my motherboard, they recently also announced an AIB model of the 6800 XT with a 240 millimeter radiator hybrid AIO model. So that's the one I'm really looking for. So with my top already taken up with a 360 radiator, how do I mount the radiator and fans to the front? Obviously, I can remove the fans and just have the radiator, but I really do enjoy the look of these fans. So the idea was, how about I move the fans that were originally mounted back here to the front, and then I leave open these spaces where I can eventually mount a 240 radiator down here and still have the looks of the three fans. So here are the three 140 millimeter fans on front of the case. I believe they look so much better, especially when they're in front of the case with the grill on in front of it. The issue is the grill does not fit, so you have to do some modification. This is an advanced modification for individuals who actually have the right tools. So what I had to do, if you look at the case down here, I had to make some modifications using a Dremel. You can see It doesn't look pretty from behind, but from the front, you can barely tell it's there. But using a Dremel, I went inside and cut some additional plastic. You can see how I cut plastic right here, plastic piece up here, and then made a plastic opening right there. So it was 2 pieces of plastic that I had to cut using a Dremel. And again, it's not perfect, but when you look at it on the other side, you can't tell that it's cut unless you look really close, upside down. And that's the opening that allows that third fan to fit. So these 2 fans in front of the case fit with the shroud on the front. It's this third fan down here that does not give you the space. This right here, the lip of the bottom of this fan, bumps up against this piece of plastic on this mount. This is the front mesh now installed onto the actual PC. And as you can tell, you can't see it unless you go and look really closely and get a flashlight. You can see it. You got to use this at your own discretion. Obviously, I believe that this will avoid any warranty that you have with the Phanteks case. All around, I believe this is a great case, but I am a little disappointed in Phanteks that they have that little piece of plastic that impedes you from actually putting it forward facing, because these fans look beautiful in front of the case instead of behind the case. One thing that's worth mentioning is that this case did not come with a rear case fan. I did buy another 140mm fan from Phanteks, which is essentially the same exact fans that are in front for the back, and I daisy chained the RGB to the actual case RGB. I really do like the case RGB. Yes, I can put the RGB and connect it to this motherboard and control it with the software, but I honestly really just enjoy having push buttons and not having to go through the software. So this was a quick little modification I bought. It was about 20 bucks off of Amazon. They're cable extensions. My PSU is an EVGA 750 watt non-modular PSU. So the one thing I really love about this case is the amount of room you have behind the motherboard, behind the case, to run all your cables. So here I have another SSD that's mounted, but you can see here my cable extension. So this is my PSU cable, this black cable, and then this is the extension that I bought off of Amazon that goes into the motherboard, so just for aesthetics only. Originally, when I cable managed all of this, it was just the PCU cables going to the motherboard. It was nice and pretty back here, very well cable managed, but by now having these extensions, I have a lot more slack in my cable. Nobody's really looking at this. This is not a show PC. As long as it looks pretty from the front, this is all I really care about. So real quick, if you're interested in my specs, I have an Asus Prime X750P motherboard, an AMD Ryzen 3800X CPU in it, which is temporary to hold me over. I am planning on getting a new 5000 series AMD. Here's my EVGA 750 watt. To the cable, to the white cable extensions, in case you guys are interested. I already showed you the box to my AIO. My Zotac that I have here is my previous Zotac that I got from over a year ago. So, all right, so this is how the case looks like now with all the RGB connected. You can see how the fans in front are now exterior of the case instead of interior. And I can tell you right now, these fans being outside of the case rather than inside the case, they look so much better behind this mesh panel. All my RGBs now daisy chained, my AIO, my 360 radiator, all my front fans, and even this. And I can control it with the buttons right here. Different colors, different type of settings. I mean, it's just overall a really cool case that I like to play around with. One last little modification I will mention that I did is at the bottom of the case, as you can see here, is I got some felt pads that you would typically put on the bottom of a chair so that it doesn't scratch up any wooden floors. I was able to get that, and I just super glued it to the feet of this Phanteks. Typically, this PC will sit behind my desk back there, and I typically tend to move my PC case around a little bit, just a few inches here and there, to either get access to connecting something or disconnecting something, or sometimes during gaming, I like to move my monitor closer and push my PC back. So I have these little felt pads on both my desktop as well as my monitor stands, just to make it a little bit easier. So that's just one little quick modification that I did. But overall, I stand by this case. I'm very well impressed with this case. If you're out there and you're interested in this case, hopefully some of the tips and tricks that I showed you, it will be useful to you. Overall, I am happy with this. If you're interested in a new case out there, definitely go for this one, especially if you like the white look of the NZXT, but you don't want that air restriction that it comes with. Go for this case.